The landlord padlocked the gate while my elderly neighbor was trapped inside. She demanded $15,000 or she'd throw us all out tonight. But she didn't realize her newest tenant was a structural engineering expert. This was the beginning of the end for the woman the media called San Francisco's cruelest landlord. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar war where one side had the money, but the other had the blueprints to take it all down. Bro, B-R-O, I am telling you, this woman, we are talking about Kihagi, a Kenyan-American powerhouse who basically turned her San Francisco property empire into a private psychological warfare zone. The city attorney didn't just call her a bad landlord, they officially documented her conducting a war of harassment, intimidation, and retaliation against her own tenants. She was the definition of the Audacity Queen. Get this, she would literally padlock communal areas so tenants couldn't even reach their own trash cans or storage, and she'd straight up cut off the water and gas in the middle of a cold California week just to make people miserable. Why? Because she wanted the old tenants gone. We're talking about people like Dale Duncan and Marta Munoz, who had lived in their unit for 21 years. They had rent control protections, and the Audacity Queen wanted them out so she could flip those units for that sweet, sweet tech money profit. She'd walk into apartments without a single second of notice, just lurking in people's living rooms to remind them she owned the place. She was a master of the entry without permission tactic, once even getting an eviction attempt thrown out because she was caught red-handed inside. She thought she was untouchable because she had the deeds to the buildings, but she was about to find out that when you mess with people's shelter, they stop being scared and start getting even. The war was officially on, and the legal receipt she was about to be served was going to have a lot of commas in it. Now, if you thought the California drama was peak villainy, let me introduce you to a guy I like to call the Foundation Fumbler. This part of the saga centers on a legend from the r/pro revenge archives that is so satisfying it should literally be taught in schools. Our hero here was a college student, but not just any student. This guy was a senior civil engineering major who spent his afternoons working for a high-end firm that specialized in structural forensics. Talk about the Foundation Fumbler owned a multi-unit house that was basically held together by spite and expired permits. I am talking massive, jagged cracks in the basement foundation and a constant water leak that was dripping, and I am not exaggerating, directly onto the main electrical panel. The structural sage, as we'll call our hero, did everything by the book. He sent certified letters, he took photos, and he invited the landlord over to see the literal sparks. But the Fumbler just sent over his maintenance guy, who I'm naming the Patchwork Prince, a man whose only tool was, apparently, a bucket of white paint. He would just slap a fresh coat over the structural cracks and say, "Looks good as new, Chief," as the building literally groaned in the background. It gets worse, though. The Foundation Fumbler decided he wanted to sell the building and started pulling the ultimate Audacity King move. He began entering the apartment without any notice, sometimes while the structural sage was in the shower to show the place to prospective buyers. When our guy complained, the Fumbler tried to pull a fast one. He claimed the $15,000 foundation crack was actually the tenant's fault because of excessive water usage and told him his $1,200 security deposit was gone, plus he owed the balance immediately. This was the moment the trap was set. The structural sage knew the building was sliding because of a city water main issue the landlord had been too cheap to report. So he waited for the landlord's big investor open house. Just as a group of suits was walking through the lobby, in walks the city building inspector and the fire marshal, both of whom happened to be professional colleagues of our hero. The look on the Fumbler's face when his pristine investment was declared unfit for human absolute chef's kiss. He wasn't just losing a sale, he was staring down $50,000 in immediate fine. But the most all right. So now we are getting to the part where the legal system stops playing nice, and if you thought the engineering student was a legend, Wait until you hear about the absolute nuclear blast that hit This woman didn't just lose a deposit, she lost a small kingdom. We are talking about a jury looking at her war of harassment and deciding that being a predatory slumlord should come with a massive, life-altering price tag. They handed down a judgment for $3.5 million. BRO. Imagine being so notoriously cruel that a jury decides you owe more money than most people see in 3 lifetimes. And the best part? She tried to appeal it, probably thinking she could slide out of it like a snake, but the court in 2021 was basically like, nope, pay up. Even with a slight reduction to $2.7 million, that is a soul-crushing defeat for someone who made a career out of bullying seniors. But if you think that's the peak of the mountain, hold on to your hats because the March 2026 saga of Captain Fraud, aka Robert Anderson, is the literal definition of the Audacity. This guy had the absolute stones to take a tenant. Julie Conk, he's standing there in front of a judge, looking all high and mighty, trying to get her kicked out. But Julie? Oh, she wasn't just a tenant. She was a one-woman investigation squad. She fought back by dropping a tactical nuke right in the middle of the hearing. She produced documentation proving that Robert, our dear Captain Fraud, didn't actually legally own or control the property he was trying to evict her from. Imagine the judge's face. One minute you're looking at a standard eviction, the next you realize the guy bringing the lawsuit has zero standing because he's basically a glorified squatter with a lease template. The judge basically told him he had no right to even be in the room. It was the ultimate Uno reverse card. He went in looking for $600 and left looking for a lawyer because, as it turns out, moving someone's stuff onto the street when you don't even own the building is a fast track to a criminal trespass charge. This is the moment where you love to see it. It just goes to show that when these slumlords think they're playing chess, they usually don't even realize the tenants are the ones who actually know the rules of the game. So while our civil engineer buddy was busy dismantling his slumlord's reputation with a clipboard, the legal system was preparing to drop an absolute nuke. And let me tell you, when the hammer finally fell, it didn't just hit, it pulverized. We are talking about the harassment queen herself, Kihagi. This woman literally built a kingdom on being the cruelest landlord in San Francisco, but she finally ran into the total final bosses of tenant rights, Dale Duncan and Marta Munoz. These guys had lived in their unit for 21 years. They knew every creak in the floorboards, and they definitely knew when Kihagi was breaking the law. She spent months making their lives a living nightmare, cutting off the water, cutting the gas, and padlocking communal doors like some kind of budget movie villain. But Dale and Marta, they did not run. They sued for every single penny of harassment and wrongful eviction. In October 2017, a jury took one look at Kihagi's war of intimidation and awarded them, wait for it, $3.5 million. Bro, imagine the silence. She tried to appeal it because of course she did, but in September 2021, the court basically told her to sit down and pay up, upholding a $2.7 million judgment. By the time the city was done with her, between the payouts and the legal fees, she was staring at a total bill for over $5.4 million. That is what we call a very expensive lesson in basic human decency. But the most shocking, because as wild as Kihagi was, she pales in comparison to the absolute legend of Robert Anderson. This went down in a viral courtroom hearing on March 29, 2026. Robert drags his tenant, Julie Conklin, into court because he's thirsty for $600 in back rent. $600! He is in there acting like the Audacity king, demanding the money with his chest out like he is the lord of the manor. But then, the tenant's side drops a bombshell that literally made the judge stop in his tracks. They proved that Robert did not actually own or legally control the property at all. The judge looked at him and basically asked why he was even in the building, let alone wasting the court's time trying to— He was basically a glorified squatter trying to evict a legal tenant, and it was not just him. Just a few weeks later, in April 2026, another group of seniors, including Sheila Hembury and Leonard Johnson, slapped down another one of Kihagi's eviction attempts. They caught her sneaking into their apartment without permission while it is like these landlords forgot that tenants have rights, cameras, and the sheer will. So picture this. Months after the dust settled and the courts finally finished dragging these serial harassers through the absolute mud, something magical happened in the mailboxes of the people they tried to break. As of January 22, 2026, those beautiful, crisp restitution checks started hitting the doormats for the victims of Stephen Croman, another legendary Audacity king, who— We are talking about part of a multi-million-dollar settlement won by the New York Attorney General that basically functioned as a giant sorry for being a nightmare payment. And remember Anne Kihagi? The woman the city literally— By the time the legal hammer fully stopped swinging in 2026, she was buried under a total judgment of $5.46 million in fines, legal fees, and costs. That is the kind of justice— But look, I know what you're thinking. Bro, that's great for them, but what if my— First off, check the receipts. In that wild Julie Conklin case from March 2026, a tenant literally stopped an eviction just by proving the guy demanding rent didn't even legally own the building. Always, and I mean always, verify who you are actually paying. Also, if your landlord ever threatens to just toss— That is a massive legal trap for them. Under laws like New York's Real Property Law 230, doing that before a formal sheriff's lockout is straight-up criminal trespass. They can end up owing you triple damages just for being impatient. And keep an eye on those security deposits, with news like Florida's HB 1305 making it easier for landlords to hide your money in out-of-state banks. You have to document everything. Take photos of every single corner the day you move in and the day you move out. The moral of the story is that guys like the Slumlord and Karen Supreme rely on you being too tired or too scared to fight back. But as we saw, once the one who fought back stands up, the whole house of cards comes crashing down. So what do you think? Did these landlords get what was coming? Drop your verdict in the comments. And if you want to see more stories of beautiful, high-stakes revenge, smash that subscribe button